Well, let's face it. Let's have it right. My business survives because I've got mental health issues.
From GoFounder, it's Business NoBS. Why is it called Business NoBS, you might ask? Well, there might well be a few knobs on the podcast, me being one of them, but what it stands for is Business No Bullshit. This podcast series is all about the trials, tribulations, and occasional successes of starting and growing a business without the Hollywood filter. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on the show today, Jordan and I talk openly about the challenges of starting and running a business, as well as the challenge of managing your mental health along the journey. There's no denying that starting and growing a business is tough. It's something a lot of people are driven to for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because you want a new challenge, a change of lifestyle, to regain control of your future, or perhaps just to prove you can do it. But starting and running a business whilst managing your own mental health is a tricky balance. There's self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and stress to deal with, and that's just the start of it. That said, being your own boss can have a positive impact on your mental health too.
It's shit. It's proper shit. There's no way around it. It's potentially me running a business. I'm a car crash waiting to happen. Like, honestly, like there's no doubt about it. Like I could turn around tomorrow and go, that's it. I fucking had enough.
Yeah, just fucking pack up all the boxes.
Pack up everything. Forget everything. Come off all social media and you never see me again.
Jordan is one of those people. He's only 8 months into his startup journey, but after more jobs than he can count and being diagnosed with bipolar, Jordan has harnessed his diagnosis for good and already developed the foundations of his startup. But much like most startups, there's so much more going on behind the scenes than most people will ever really appreciate.
So, like I said, Stigma really was a bit of a last-ditch thing. It was I was a barber during COVID, had my own shop, and it was constantly, you're allowed to work, you're not allowed to work, you can work, you can't work. It was a nightmare. And then every time we kind of got rules back in place saying, you know, this was going to be the structure of how everybody was going to work again, it was a case of barbers being in like the hospitality industry as such was the last ones to be allowed to go back, because I mean obviously your hands on work, you're physically touching people, aren't you, you know, so it was a case of, you know, we were allowed to do that, then we're not, then we are, then we're not, and I just got fucking fed up with it, to be honest with you.
Well, it makes it kind of hard to plan, doesn't it, when
yeah,
you're trying to run a business.
It just got bored, and then my business hadn't been going a lot long, so I couldn't claim furlough.
Right.
So self-employed, couldn't claim furlough. Didn't have any savings because I just worked from pay packet to pay packet, you know, and I got paid and stuff. So and then it was a nightmare because we went through a stage of like even not being able to claim, like people got council tax grants and stuff like that, and we couldn't get anything, you know. And I ended up running a lot of debt up over COVID, and that for me was mentally tough. Didn't know what to do. Before back end of last year, I had bailiffs knocking on my door. Didn't know, debt collectors trying to, you know, utility bills not being paid and stuff. And it was just a time where really I didn't know what to do myself. I through the whole of lockdown, one of the biggest things that I'd started doing was I started messing around on like Adobe Photoshop and stuff, and you know I'd always had since being a young lad, really being a teenager at school and stuff. Me and my mates always used to mess around on Photoshop and make stuff, MySpace, Pixar, you know, all that sort of stuff, trying to make yourself like a G on MySpace and stuff. Yeah, and I just started like, you know, throwing stuff together and watching YouTube tutorials and stuff like that, and then it come to like the back end of lockdown. I think it was the second lockdown, because the second and third lockdown were quite close together. So it was the second lockdown, and I was like, right, you know what? I'm going to come up with this idea, and I'm going to call it the Wellbeing Barber, because obviously we'll talk later on a bit more about mental health and things like that. But obviously I'm quite big into being an advocate for mental health, well, at least, you know, letting people know what I go through. And I was going to call this thing the Wellbeing Barber, and the idea was that I was going to go into workplaces and do wellbeing sessions or wellbeing days where I cut lads' hair basically, and it was just a bit of a time off where employers could pay for a barber to come in, give their employees a bit of
idea,
a
because they do similar, don't they, like with massages and stuff like
absolutely.
that. Yeah,
so it was, and I had this plan and to do this and stuff, and then second lockdown hit, so I was like getting it all ready, and I'd even booked my first gig in for it, and thought, all right, it's gonna be all right this, and then third lockdown hit straight after it pretty much, and I was like, I can't be fucking arsed with this. I just cannot be bothered with it at all. I was like, do you know what, I'm just fed up of it. So out there not knowing what to do, not a clue what to do, and I don't know what came over me, because I've no like background in fashion. I didn't go to uni to do it. A lot of people do like fashion degrees and fashion design and stuff like that. But I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to start making clothing, and I'm going to come up with a name, and I'm going to aim it around mental health and stuff, and just see where it takes me, really. And it was originally going to be called Disorder, but then a very well-known businessman who owns a North East football club owns Disorder Clothing, believe it or not.
Shit on that one.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not getting into bed with that one.
No, not worth the hassle.
Yeah, and I was like, right, just gonna come up with your names, pissing around on Photoshop like I did. I was like, sent it to I was cutting a young lad's hair at the time. He was on like 18. I thought he's a good lad to be in with kids and stuff, and I thought, just kept sending him, what do you think of this, and I sent him this logo at Stigma, and he went, yeah, that's sick, I like that. And I thought, right, well, that's what it's going to come from. I'm just going to start it, Stigma Clothing, and I didn't have a clue, what I was doing, not a clue. Just thought, I'm just going to make this logo. Well, where do I buy clothing from? Because obviously I work in a manufacturer clothing to start off with. Where do I buy clothing from? So I got in touch with a local business, and they'd allow me to do print on demand. They would supply the garments for me. They would print it all. They would send it out. They would, this, that, and the other. And I thought, all right, let's try and vamp up some custom on through LinkedIn, which is also a bit of a weird subject, because there's not many people who sell to consumer through having a product on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I would say that 75% of our sales come through LinkedIn, which compared to most people, when they say Instagram works massively. And
that's really interesting. So what made you go, fuck it, we'll try LinkedIn? Was it a conscious thing, or was it, did it happen organically, or?
Straight up off the bat was, I'd fucked all other social media sites off. Do you know what? I was going through a bit of a bad stage in my head, and social media wasn't helping. And I decided that I was going to come off everything, and I came off Facebook.
Kudos for that, because I honestly think people who struggle, I think one of the best things you can do is come off social media.
Which I back that up. It was a good decision for me to do, and I'm still not back on. I don't have personal profiles on Facebook, or Instagram. I have business profiles, obviously, but I do have Twitter. But obviously, it's only to follow the football and stuff on a Saturday. And when Preston North End get an hammering, it's like looking at all fans going to meltdown and stuff. It's quite funny.
And you join them.
Join them. Yeah, and I come off. So really, people ask me why LinkedIn. It was because, and I wasn't even on LinkedIn, so I joined LinkedIn, and the reason why I joined LinkedIn was because I thought, well, I thought it was a business platform. I thought, you know what, if it don't work out, this, I can try and find a job through LinkedIn, or I can, because I was sick of looking at obviously job sites and stuff, and it was a bit of a ball ache. So I went on LinkedIn, just started telling my story really, and now this was probably October, November last year, so we're coming up a year really, and I didn't know at that time that a lot of people have said since that LinkedIn was making this transition from being a really businessy sort of social. I just fucking started being myself, and people obviously come out with a joke, it's not Facebook and stuff. I was like, but this is all I've known on LinkedIn, because I've not known I've not seen how it used to be and stuff. So I just started chatting a lot of macro on there like I do, and before. I think what happened was I posted. The big thing was me. So I just started Stigma, or it was just before I'd started Stigma, and I posted something, and I ended up getting 1 million views on the post on LinkedIn, and I was like, I've never ever fucking done anything like that. It got
it's crazy reach, isn't it?
Well, yes, really. And I thought, wow, 1 million people have seen something that I've wrote, and I think my following went from like 200 or 300 to probably 2,000 or 3,000, which wasn't massive, but
off one post, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was quite a big jump, and ever since then I've just been okay. Let's just rock with it. Let's try and build up a family really on LinkedIn that are unapologetically different and don't really care about. Do care. Obviously, I mean, I do care. I say I don't care about stuff, but I do.
No, but care about the right things.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the difference, isn't it? Because a lot of mental health comes from caring about the wrong things a lot of the time.
Absolutely. And then built up this, like, it was, like I said, just building up this, like, dysfunctional family, really, of people who didn't really, when I say don't care, I mean, like, weren't afraid to go, do you know what, this is me and this is who I am. And
be unapologetically themselves.
Yeah, really. And that's who I am straight off the bat, and don't get me wrong, there are times with my mental health diagnosis that I have times where I'm unapologetically myself and I think, yeah, fuck the world, and I'm going to take the world by storm, and then the next day I think, oh, why the fuck did I do that? And I can't really deal with my, not even like my behaviour, but I was like, oh, I wish I weren't like that yesterday. And that's how my life goes, really. Like, I wake up every morning and for the first hour, I don't know who I'm going to be.
Right.
I don't know who I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be on song and I'm going to try and take over the world and I'm going to be so creative and I'm going to be like, just bang at it. And some days I'll get up, make a brew, go back to bed and just lie in bed all day.
Yeah, so even like, joking aside, but coming here today could have gone either way, couldn't it? Presumably.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been fucking shitting it, absolutely bricking it. I chatted to you yesterday, I sent you a message. This is only the second time in 8 months that I've met somebody face to face, because my social anxiety becomes so bad over COVID that I'm at times I'm petrified to leave my house.
So I think that's a really interesting point to have a look into then. So obviously we know a little bit about stigma. So that's closely attached to people being unapologetic with themselves, but also hopefully a positive message around mental health.
Yeah.
So can you talk about sort of mental health issues that you suffer with?
Yeah, so I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2.
Yeah.
And I've got ADHD and I'm dyslexic, which isn't a mental health issue, but it can kind of it's all on kind of a neurodiverse spectrum, which with a cocktail of everything that you, and to be honest with you, I've had a mental health consultant diagnose me with borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
Although we have had discussions around me kind of being quite objective to that diagnosis because the actual diagnosis session and stuff didn't go great. I mean, like, prime example, like, because this is one of the worst things is you wait 18 months for these things, like, especially under NHS.
So actually, from starting that process to the end, you're going to have changed.
You could be a different
good
person.
Or bad.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest things is like, and I don't hold any grudge over the NHS and like the government not doing enough or whatever. And I mean, because these issues at the moment are so complex and so wide stretch that I don't know what the fucking answer is.
And I don't. All I know is we need to be doing better, don't we? Because interestingly, Dan Kelso and I, we did an episode right at the start of this series actually about mental health, and one of the big complaints he had with the system was the fact it takes as long as it does. Like you say, I am not going to sit here with the answers because I sure as hell don't have any because I'm just a daft lad from Scunny. But the problem is it's too slow in it, and the generation coming behind us are going to have more problems, I think, than even our generation. So, and
that's like I said, because I know general process is that you go and see your GP. Your GP will, at face value, 9 times out of 10, put you on an antidepressant. in terms of medication that I've been on sertraline, citalopram, diazepam, venlafaxine, fluoxetine. Been on a wide variety of different medications. So they will put you on some kind of, some of which your doctor can prescribe, like sertraline and citalopram.
Yeah.
But then there's a more complex medication which you will have to see a mental health consultant to get prescribed, like venlafaxine, which was an SNRI rather than an SSRI, which again was prescribed for me by my consultant. But you go and see GP, they put you on it, you go and have maybe a session with them again, saying, how you feeling off them and stuff. Either you're going to be there or you're not, but I'm being honest with you, these things take months to work properly, in my experience anyway. And then really, even if they are or they aren't working, it's kind of a take your time, see how they work, blah, blah, blah. And only when, and being in this position myself, only when you turn around and say, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm thinking about killing myself, will the ears prick up a little bit. And once I said, I remember sitting in my GP's surgery, and he was sat there with me, and I just burst into tears, and he was really concerned for me. You could tell he was really concerned for me. And I was in the surgery in the morning, and in the afternoon I had a meeting with the Preston mental health crisis team.
Yeah.
So I had a meeting with the crisis team. They sat me down. I think that was on the Friday, and on the Saturday they wanted me to go and do like a consultation with you, basically, where they get you to map out your whole life, really, and a guy sits there and writes it down, with no real input on it. He's not trying there to make you feel better. He's not there to
just absorbing the information.
Yeah, absolutely, just document everything, really. Yeah. And I remember, God bless him, my nan took me, because I was in no state to drive or anything like that, and my nan took me down, and she was so worried about me at the time. And we sat there and we did the whole planned out my life on a piece of paper type thing. And I was like, right, okay, maybe I'm getting some help now. Maybe maybe this is going to be it. And you went back, and it was a case of we did that. I then saw a consultant, and then I was put on a waiting list to get a diagnosis. Like I said, 18 months. Because for me, it wasn't like at that stage in my life. I feel like personally for me, I was going through what I would call a situational depression, because something had happened in my life where I'd broke up with my partner, and I was going through a situational depression, and I think this can happen.
So that triggered it.
Yeah, so it was a case of something was happening in my life which was shit, basically.
Yeah,
and when I think now logically about that, I sit here and I go, well, actually, it's perfectly understandable that you was feeling shit.
Yeah.
The problem that I had was in the lead up to my breakup with my ex-partner, I was a mess, like a real mess. I was taking drugs a lot. I was drinking a lot. I refused to go to work, couldn't get up out of bed, and my life was just a mess. And I kept feeling so low, but then at the same time, having days where I know I'm big into gym. I go to gym every day, and I was, put 5 stone on now, but I was in gym every day, and I used to love going to the gym, and I was so high, buzzing, absolutely all the time, buzzing, and then come home and be dead in bed and just not want to get out of bed and this, that, and the other, and that was my mood.
Yeah, so
all
up
the time,
and down,
fluctuating all the time. So even though I feel like a big part of that was a situational after the breakup, there was something that was underlying that I'd had since I'd been a little lad, to be honest with you, through situations that had kind of come about in my childhood and stuff. And waited 18 months. They put me on different medications and stuff, and then finally got my appointment with the consultant, and he sat down, and I would say that when you do get those appointments, the guys who diagnose you are fantastic. Like, he wanted my life story again, but he didn't want me to dramatise or he didn't want any added explanation onto anything. It was like, tell me about your childhood. So you tell me about your childhood, and then you might veer off the story a little bit and go, but I don't know if that's because he didn't want to know. It was like, he'd shut you down. He was like, I just need the answer.
Okay.
I need the answer. I don't need to know the ins and outs. I need the answer. And all the time he was doing this, it was like he was drawing a tree almost. Like, and he was like, every time he answered something, he'd like draw another line this way or draw another line that way. And he was like, right, okay. At the end of that session, he called me back 2 weeks later. We had another session, and he just said, I diagnosed you with bipolar disorder type 2, and it was all from like, and he then showed me this paper that he'd been doing, and again, there's different types of bipolar and stuff, but he spoke to me about how, what he was doing when he was drawing this line or that line, and which way we were going down, and and then so I was diagnosed with that, and I was like, right, okay, maybe I've got some answers, maybe I can at least justify some of the stuff that goes on with myself. I can learn more about bipolar and what it is, and maybe why I act the way I act or who I am.
Has it helped you figure that out then, the actual diagnosis?
For a while it did.
Right.
For a while it did. I never actually, they wanted to put me on a medication called lamotrigine, which actually, believe it or not, is taken for people who have epilepsy.
Right.
I don't know what the link is, but apparently that's to stabilise your moods, because obviously bipolar is rapid mood swings, really.
Yeah.
And they wanted to put me on something lamotrigine, but I was on a drug called venlafaxine, which was working okay at the time. So we decided that I was going to stay on the venlafaxine rather than, because one of the other biggest things was my anxiety as well, which is horrible at times. And I'd say at times my anxiety is worse than my depression, or it makes me feel worse than depression. But again, I don't really...
It depends what day, presumably.
Yeah, and I don't really look at things now I don't really look at things in my own head as like, I've got anxiety and I've got depression. Yeah. Like, I've got bipolar, and that's all part of it. It's all on the spectrum. So it's just that some days I'm up here, and on some days I'm down here, and there's no in between. There really isn't. And if you do get an in between, it's very, it doesn't last very long.
Yeah. How's that all affected actually having the business and running the business? Is it?
Oh, it's shit. It's shit. It's proper shit. There's no way around it. It's potentially me running a business. I'm a car crash waiting to happen. Like, honestly, like there's no doubt about it. Like, I could turn around tomorrow and go, that's it, I fucking had enough.
Yeah, just fucking pack up all the boxes.
Pack up everything, forget everything, come off all social media, and you never see me again. Because I can do that stuff.
So buy the stuff while you can.
Buy the stuff while you can. And
just the sales, that scarcity.
By the time this podcast go out, nobody might know me. So yeah. One of the reasons that I've not done that yet, and believe you me, I've been close to doing it. I've also achieved a lot. I've also come a long way. Speaking with a friend of mine last night, and he runs an e-commerce business, and he said to me, our sales mate, we always do this, one of us pops up, and it usually means that one of us is having a shit time with sales. Because
typically, because I have those conversations with people, and invariably it's because one of you is having a nightmare, and you need some justification to carry on. Yeah.
And every time he messages me, he says, "How's sales mate?" And I go, "The shit mate." And I go, "Our sales mate." The shit, mate, and we never once like, they're class. Genuinely, sometimes they are doing class, but
but you know what's really interesting about the startup journey? I think you very rarely celebrate the good stuff, and it's really bad because you focus so much on the shit, you don't celebrate the good, and that's stupid, isn't it?
It is. I'm not taking a penny from Stigma yet. Not paying myself a penny. 8 months in, not paying myself a penny. But bear in mind again, when I told you at the very start, I was in a lot of debt.
Yep.
I'm debt free, which is
huge, amazing, yeah.
But in terms of me, like, actually
reaping your rewards for it. Almost.
Not even like, you know, but I'm very lucky to have a really supporting partner who, you know, last week I was having one of them weeks where I didn't want to carry on. I was really, really close last week to just giving it up and just going, I can't do this anymore. And I even had a few days off social media, which again was the first time in probably 8 months I've done that. And she just said one thing to me, and she went, I don't want you to give it up because you've done so well with it. Yeah. And it actually it resonated with me a little bit to say, you know what, it was nice to hear that. And again, start businesses, like, right, background from me, school-wise, like, my GCSE spelt fudge, like, I've no qualifications whatsoever. I must hold the world record for an under 30-year-old for the amount of jobs held. Like, you name it, I've done it. Like, from school, worked on a butcher's wagon, first job, then upholstery, marketing, timber yard, Curry's PC World, worked in 3 hospitals, you know, and people go, fucking hell, like, you've had a lot of jobs, haven't you? And I go, yes. And they go, don't look good on your CV, really, that does it? And I go, no, not really, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to just try something new, because that is the way I am, really. You know, like, you know, there's a very good chance that I might want to give up after 2 or 3 weeks, but
I think that hopefully the difference this time, though, is, well, there's 2 trains of thoughts what I'm going to say. Yeah. First one being, hopefully you can kind of see that this one, though, looks to be going on a better path, because...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know,
I mean, when you actually look at the fact, I mean, we're not breaking any world records.
No, but you don't need to. This is the thing that people go wrong in business. Yeah. People think you got to be the next Uber or Facebook. Fuck that. You just need to be slow and steady, and keep getting better. That's it.
And that's exactly what we are, really. We are slow and steady. We keep getting better. We go through periods where, you know, some weeks orders fly out. Yeah. And I think, if only every day were like this, you know. I won't be able to cope with it, like, but if only every day was like this, and then I go for a week where...
Yeah, you're wondering where the next one's going to come from, mate. And that, again, is perfectly normal.
Yeah.
But I think the thing you mentioned there was your missus just having that gentle word to say, keep going, because, you know, she's proud of you ultimately. Yeah. I think the hardest thing when you're running business, particularly given what you do, and it's a clothing brand that represents something, is you probably might not hear as much feedback from your customers as probably would be helpful. So it's different. I was selling that online training. I'm never going to get someone going, thanks for the online training, pal, because obviously they don't want to fucking do it. But you probably don't appreciate how much people appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't ever come back to you, because you post it out, they get it, they love it, they wear it. I mean, and they might tag you in it or whatever, but you don't really.
I think we have a Trustpilot page, you know, and like, it sends out an automatic. You probably have one.
I don't know if I've had it yet, actually. I'd have done it by now.
It sends it out 2 weeks after you had your order. It automatically sends out, you know, reviewers and stuff, And I think we're on about 108 reviews, and we've had a lot more than 100 orders, you know. But
that's decent.
It's quite funny. We've got 2 bad reviews on it. One of them's like 1 star, you click and it was like excellent workmanship. Someone's like misclicked this, but I can't change it because I've tried messaging Trustpilot. It's like, no, because you asked them to leave the review, we have to leave it. Like, I was like, all right, okay, whatever. And then the other one is, which is one of my biggest fucking issues in e-commerce, is they didn't get the item, but it was because of the
courier not company. For you. Yeah.
But again, as I put in back in the response, you know, you still have to take responsibility to making sure that orders got there, and unfortunately just slipped through the net. And that's going to be, you know, you're not going to please every...
that's it.
I spoke to her, you know, and she's fine. She's like, oh yeah, I just didn't know what else to do. It's like, well, cheers.
Cheers. You just fucked a small business. I think that's another good point, though, isn't it? It's like people don't understand the power of reviews that can be good and bad, and for a small business, it can fuck you. So think twice before you're negative, because I see it all the time. Like, I don't know. It might be like a local Facebook group where they're slating the local curry house or something. It's like, give them a fucking break. Just go and have a word with them and resolve it with them before you jump to that public sort of platform. Yeah,
because ultimately we are a small business, you know.
And people make mistakes as well.
Absolutely. I can make more mistakes than anybody. You know? But, you know, looking again at when I remember we first started, what with the company we was using, when I said they were kind of like, it was almost like drop shipping for us. it was a case of we was using them, and there were little things going wrong and stuff.
You're beholden to their mistakes then, aren't you?
So then I was like, right, I'm going to take all this in-house. Never done any of that. I'd never done any of it, but I was going to.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? So
Very.
I was working at this point, and I still am at times. I won't lie. I'm working at this point where I was like, I had 300 quid in business account, and I was like, right, I need to get some equipment. Spend your 300 quid, you're back down to zero, and you think, oh, fucking hell, I can't even afford to buy clothing if someone makes an order now, And then one of the biggest things I will say, by the way, that helped me out tenfold with was after about 3 months of, because I run the Stigma store through Shopify. They offered me Shopify Capital, and they gave me a £3,500 loan, basically, which was fucking so helpful at the time. And for that reason, I will never ever. People have gone, why don't you use this or why don't you use that? And I go, no, because, well, bear in mind, first and foremost, and actually the Shopify Capital loan that they give me for £3,500 was actually a really reasonable, like, paying back, APR and stuff like that. I think it was basically they took 14% of your daily earnings until you paid it back, and then there was like I think it was 10% on top or something like that. But for that time was like,
for what you needed,
it was perfect, And
well, that's because most businesses, particularly, I mean, you're still in your first year, you're gonna have these massive problems with cash flow. I've got a screenshot on my phone. I'll have to look at the data to tell you when it was, but a screenshot on my phone of like £10.90 or something daft in the business bank account. Had a fucking employee at that point. Like, do you know what I mean? But it just got to the point where we had a big project on that we had to shell out loads of money for. We hadn't been paid yet. And I'm like, I used to speak to my brother every day on, like, when I was driving into the office and he was driving to work, and we'd have a car and he'd be like, how are you getting on? I'd be like, I've got about £10.90 in the fucking business account. He's like, that's not a good thing, is it? I was like, no, it's fucking not. I was like, but I think I should someone should pay me the money they owe me next week, and that'll sort it, because it's like, maybe quite a chunky payment, and then we'd be good for another few months. But those bits in the middle, innit, where you're shitting your pants. I mean, like, but that's normal. Like, it is normal. It's horrible.
With the Shopify payouts, you wait 3 days for them. Yeah. So you're like,
please, no one make an order.
You wait 3 days for them, and if they pay on a Friday, you don't get it till like Tuesday. Yeah. So you're like, fucking hell, I'm desperate for some money. Like, I've no money in my bank.
Jam sandwiches.
So, not even that. So yeah, we laugh about stuff like that, because I think, fucking hell, like, if something happens now, that's it. Business is gone. Like, if a bill comes in now or whatever, I'm screwed.
This is it, right? People really romanticize having a small business, and they also, maybe not overly common, I hope not, but people sometimes begrudge people success, I think, or they sometimes think, starting a business is easy, and it's like, no, fuck off, because it literally can take one bad day, one bad week, and the whole business can go to shit. Yeah. That's the reality of it, isn't it, unfortunately? But there's this over-glamorization of how easy it is, or you follow this blueprint or this bloody success plan or some other cock and bull of how to get there. But the truth is, it's a grind. It's hard work.
So I got that, and I was like, right. So I went out and bought a couple of heat presses, like, online, brought them in, turned my spare room into, well, I say my spare room, it's like, honestly, it's tiny. So I turned this like spare room into my office as such, or Stigma HQ. Yeah. And it's funny when you walk in now, because you've got some racking, and that's got like bits of stock on and stuff, and then you've got my heat presses, and then my desk, and then like we've got all washing in corner. Actually, we live in a top floor apartment with like no windows, and so I bought that, and then I was like, right, okay. Heat presses. Now I need to buy the transfers. Like, where do I buy the transfers from? So I'm sourcing these transfers, and then bought them. Started putting these transfers on, thinking, right, we'll give it a try. Press them down, burning garments.
Yeah, dog shit. I bet.
Absolutely shit, right? So then I'm like, what am I gonna do? So then we kind of cracked it, and then like 2 weeks later, like all stuff's peeling off. All Stigma stuff's peeling off, and I'm like, oh my god, like, and I think at that point in time we'd done like quite a few orders, and I was shitting it. I was like, if I've got to refund all of these or replace all of these, I'm gonna, you know. And now, you know, we've come to a stage where I ended up I bought another vinyl cutter plotter, and now we make all our own transfers through vinyl and stuff. And the vinyl that we use now in the t-shirts will outlast a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know.
It's all a learning game, isn't it, mate? Every day.
And I'm so thankful to the people at that point in time who understood that, you know, like, because, like I said, if we'd have had 100 people turn around and go, I want my money back.
Do you know what, though? Every business has those early adopters.
Yeah.
Like, I look back and I think the shit I was selling, even though it was like, I've said it a few times, my first customer was like 10-15 quid a month.
Yeah.
But the product that I was giving them was absolutely toilet. But they're still stuck by it. And I just think, God, kudos to them. Like, the early adopters of any business, it's like amazing. And like you say, big credit to them, because if they'd have all come at the same time, that could have just killed it straight away, couldn't it? And you wouldn't be where you are now, which had been an absolute travesty, really.
And some of the people who, because what I did was try and drum up some like, so what I'm looking for, some kind of atmosphere before I started Stigma.
Yeah.
So like I was trying to drum it up a little bit, and then we're going to go, right, bang, we're live.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. So I was trying to do that. And one of the things that I did during this second lockdown was I was feeling shit. And I was like, I'm going to start a WhatsApp group for people on LinkedIn. Anybody can join it. And it's just a well-being WhatsApp group. And it was for people who were maybe on their own or struggling or whatever. And I started this WhatsApp group, and there were probably 20, 30 people joined it. And I still speak to them people daily, you know, and we're all a bunch of misfits, all of us, you know. But when I started Stigma, those guys were my absolute core of what we got going. And one of the guys, which I'll never forget, placed an order in the first week for 600 quid. Wow. You know, and I was like, when you're talking £600 worth of clothing, it's a lot of clothing, especially when you're selling 20, 30 quid t-shirts, you know, hoodies and stuff. So £600, I was like, is this a mistake? Like, you know, and he's like, no. And he'd basically bought it for a charity. So he was going to buy it. He bought it all and passed it on to charity. And I'll never, ever forget that, you know. And I speak to the guy weekly, if not daily, sometimes. And he's still, you know, he to this day, because he didn't stop at that. He was like, next month he bought another like 300 quid's worth of stuff. And then next month it was 200. And he is still now, to this day, the biggest customer we have. He spent the most money with us, along with another guy who I met through LinkedIn, who's, I'll give him a shout out because I love it. He's called Thomas Woodhams, and he probably has the biggest Stigma collection going. Like, yeah, he's not necessarily spent the most money, so I told him to please figure it out. No, but in terms of like, because he's
got all the merch.
Oh, he took a picture of it. It's like
a walking, talking like, brand.
Everything's Stigma. I think his mates take me out with him at work now. Because like every time a parcel turns up, I was like, oh, I love a Stigma top or something. But
that joking aside, that is kind of what you're tapping into, and it's like people who want to be part of something because it stands for something as well.
And Thomas has ADHD, like I do, and we laugh all the time because we have a good crack. Cause I bring something new out. And first person I message is Thomas.
Yeah, because he can't help himself.
Like, go on, I love it. You know, like we laugh and you go. We sometimes set up phone. We give it like, if I'm skiing next week, I bring some out. We buy it. It's like, yeah, it's out, mate. No worries, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. So, and then he'll message me, "How you doing?" I go, "Oh shit, mate. I'm skiing. I'm gonna have to bring something out, so you buy it." Like, you know, and we have a good crack like that. But he's genuinely, he's got a great art, and he supports me. Yeah, you know, and it's fantastic.
In terms of your business and how that has affected, because we just talked about how running a business with mental health problems is a challenge.
Yeah.
Are there any pluses that it's had in terms of having a business for your mental health?
Well, let's face it. Let's have it right. My business survives because I've got mental health issues. Because it's basically, you know, Stigma is now. This is one of the things that I've walked away from a little bit. Stigma is not just around mental health. Stigma exists in all sorts of walks of life, whether that be sexuality, gender, disability, you know, mental state or whatever. But it can exist in all sorts of walks of life, and that's what we are basing Stigma around now. When I first,
it's just like your experience of that is
mental health, you know. And we have spoken with people who have done little bits for us in terms of like getting over a message in terms of stigma with like race. We've done ones with like obviously sexual orientations and gender and stuff. And for me, I'm just the type of person where I couldn't give a shit who you are. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't bother me. Like I'm not. Yeah, I can't get in my head how people can like hate another person because of the colour of their skin.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Or I can't. Or their sexuality.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? Like I really couldn't give a shit. Like I just don't get it. It just doesn't make sense in my head whatsoever. So we're doing a lot more around other things as well as mental health. I think it'll always come back to mental health because of the fact that obviously
I suppose it's so entrenched in your story, and that's
and one of the talking about again startup businesses, one of the hardest things that personally I come across now is the fact that everyone talks about building a personal brand and this that, and something that I have done, and I have worked on building this personal brand on LinkedIn. I wish I fucking not now. I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I just turn around and go, one of the scariest things for me is my business self-sustainable, like if I'm not with it, and it's probably not at the moment.
Not yet, but you're still so young. Like I think you have to do a lot of what you're doing to get to that stage, because I think to most businesses when they're first starting out, you've got to have that. You've got to have a figurehead almost.
And I think there are.
And sorry, just to interject, that's also your secret weapon.
Well, yeah,
in a way, because who runs Nike couldn't fucking tell you.
No,
but when they were starting out, I guarantee
you probably could have done.
Yeah,
and I guess that is because of my mental health issues. Really, I couldn't see me being that all the way through my business, say in 5 years.
Yeah, because you probably wouldn't want to be.
I think the whole idea around stigma is that we're creating this kind of family of people who aren't afraid to be who they want to be. Even people have messaged me and said, like, even you don't know who you're inspiring because people and
that's exactly it. Because you might think, like, I really can't be asked to be the kind of figurehead or maybe the dad of the family, whatever you want to call it. But someone out there probably needs you to be, as daft as that sounds.
Yeah.
Or maybe not need you to be, but you're actually doing a lot of good for them, and they might never even speak up. You might even never know who they are. But the fact you're willing to put yourself out there, because you are really honest about your journey, and you are really honest about the issues that you have. Not many people are.
No.
So to see someone who is like that, I can imagine that is massively powerful for a lot of people.
And I do get quite a lot of messages of people saying that to me, and it's nice, but
selfishly,
don't we get in it? Do you not think, like, you'll know this? You're far more experienced than what I am. But do you not feel like you said, there comes a point where if you hear something negative about it, you get so many people going, just fucking ignore it. Just blank it out. This, that, and the other, and if you want to take advice from them, don't take criticism.
You're still focusing on it,
and you go, right, okay. And if you kind of, and at one point I thought, if there's, because there will people be out there who don't like you and won't want you to succeed and become jealous or whatever the reason is, right? But then I thought, well, if I'm not going to listen to them, I'm not going to listen to people who give me good news as well. Like,
I'm only going to listen to the good stuff. Inflate my ego.
Exactly.
Nah, I think for me, I think it's important to still listen to the negatives. You just got to not focus on them. So I do take them on board, and like if someone pipes up with some negative stuff on, whether it's LinkedIn or
don't get me wrong,
I reflect on it. But the challenge, and I'm not, I probably haven't even found this balance, is you just focus on it, and that's the danger. So you need to take the rough with the smooth as well.
If something negative comes out, it fucking hits me hard.
Yeah,
it hits me hard, like big time.
And the problem is, I'm probably a bit better at this now than I was, but when I was first starting out, if someone like, I don't know, say a customer complained or one of their end employees who were using it complained or whatever, it'd wipe me out productivity-wise for the entire day, which is stupid. Yeah. but I struggle to sort of put it in a box and put it in the drawer and fuck it off kind of thing. Yeah. And I think that'll come with time and confidence probably in terms of, you know, you're still very early in the journey of building this brand. And over time, it shifts, and this is probably attached to the whole figurehead thing, it shifts from being like what feels like a personal attack on you because you're the figurehead to when you're not the figurehead of the business as much, so therefore it's just an attack on the brand and actually like, fuck it, the brand's big enough and strong enough to take it.
I'd love to be at that point, you know, and you're 100% right, you know, that's exactly how I am, and I think in terms of my bipolar and where it can keep me, where you said it can wipe you out for a day or something, mine could be like weeks. Weeks and then something just triggers and I snap out of it, and you know, whatever that may be. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Like and now I'm just enjoying what I'm doing, and I like being different in terms of, like, you know, we've just released the massive weirdo t-shirts, and we've just decided that we're going to be doing like limited edition items every month, and the massive weirdo one is going to be running out at the end of this month. But we released these t-shirts, and probably the first week I probably sold over 100 of them, which was really, you know, cool. And the fact that it is, like we said, 75% of our customers probably linked in for the next month. You think I've got a month's worth of people posting these t-shirts, which is really cool. And that's one of the biggest things for me. And without those people, Stigma wouldn't be anywhere near what it is. I know someone who started a clothing brand around the same time as me, and they're no longer going. So I find myself extremely lucky, more than anything, to be actually going, you know what, you're not killing it, you're not smashing it, you're not making a living.
Like I said earlier, mate, slow and steady.
But you're still going.
Yeah, and that's all it is with startups. You know, the stats don't lie, how many people go under and all that sort of stuff. It's slow and steady. All this bullshit you see in the news about these companies who've got X investment, it's all fucking ass. All these people who turn over X million. Yeah, but you don't make any fucking profit. No. So it's just slow and steady is the absolute key.
And this is one of the biggest things for me, and obviously talking to you is that, you know, maybe I don't understand that side of business, and I'll be honest that I don't, you know.
But I didn't, and I probably still don't now. Like, the amount of, I'm trying to build GoFounder, and fucking hell, I'm taking ages for it. And if I'd have been doing this the first time round, it'd have been dead because I'm making loads of mistakes. It's sort of like do as I say, not as I do, almost. But when I first started, mate, I had fucking no idea. Like, no idea.
When you started, obviously, your previous business sold.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea? Because, like, for me, like, and one of the biggest things that I taught to, because obviously, like, you watch Dragon's Den or something like that.
Yeah, that was. By the way, that's the extent of my business knowledge when I started. Okay. Dragon's Den.
Well, to be honest with you, yeah, I'd go as far as that, and maybe Gary Vee on YouTube sometimes or something like that. But
who can add to Nobel?
But you know, I watch all these, and I'm like, right, and then listen to a few audio books, and you think, right, okay, you know, there's no doubt about it. I am fucking winging this whole process, like,
mate. Well, this is it. So that, yeah, like
one of the things I want to ask you was, like, at what point did you like start understanding like how investments work, how you know, someone potentially would come in and want to buy your business? How did you work all that out?
Literally as it happened. So everything as it happened. So like I never went for investment.
I wouldn't even know how to do it, me, you know.
But I think there's a misconception that because you start a business, you're meant to know what you're doing, and everyone fucks this up because no one knows. And like, so I only now know how the whole process of selling a business works because I fucking did it. Yeah. But so I got, funnily enough, the approach for the sale of my business was through LinkedIn. So from that message coming in saying like, would you be interested in a collaboration kind of thing, to then the actual exit, I literally had no idea apart from what was in front of me on that day. Apart from, you can read up on Google and learn as much as you can, but...
So what help did you have to get at that point? Or did you have to like, did you need legal advice? Did you do...
Yeah. So numbers isn't my strong suit. No. So I had to call in my accountant and say like, this is potentially happening. Yeah. I need you to make it so I can at least sound like I know what I'm on about. I called him I'd actually started working with like a sort of almost like an outsourced financial directory kind of role just in the months running up to it. And I said, look, I'm going to fuck it again. Similarly, I'm going to need your help here because I'm not comfortable speaking to these pretty intelligent people about numbers when I'm clearly going to make a tit of myself. So
they're probably not, are they? They're probably
not. No, they're just normal people out there. But you get this sort of idea in your head. So obviously, sort of roped him in to help me from financial as well as my accountant. Then I just spoke to a few other people, like locally, business owners, said, oh, do you know any good lawyers? They put me in touch with a lawyer who could then help with the actual process of going through the acquisition. So it's literally just, as it came through the door in terms of what's happening today, oh shit, I need to get a lawyer. And then the lawyer would go, right, yeah, we can do this, but then you've got to do all this fucking work. So then like part of a sale process, you have to do a whole disclosure document or list of documents. So they send you like, about 10,000 questions. You're like, fucking hell. And I was like, I don't know the answer to that. But I just left them all in like orange to come back to and then found the answer for it, whether it's asking my accountant or asking. It sounds stupid, but and that applies to every stage of the business, right the way from when I first started, not knowing how to set up like the tech side of it through to the sale. I literally just Googled it.
And I guess, listening to you say that and me, there's been so many things of which I've had no idea what to do.
Perfect example. You said earlier, like, you didn't know where to source your stuff from. No. You got a heat press and then it was shit and then you got a different one. Yeah. Like, you just figured it out, haven't you, really?
Yeah. And now, like, even to the point where we're actually manufacturing clothing now. We're actually, we work with overseas and stuff, and...
Well, that's a real quick jump, can I add, from going from effectively drop shipping to that in how many months? 8 months. Yeah. That's a big step.
I'm not saying that we're manufacturing all these garments and stuff, but one of the things that we did do was just a little project I wanted to do was we actually manufactured a football kit from scratch for a team, and that was so cool for me because I designed that on my laptop. And you talk about fashion design and stuff like that. It's like, no, I sat on Photoshop and I didn't just want it to be a plain red kit.
Yeah, like a run of the mill.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to add patterns onto the sleeves.
I trust you made it claret and blue like Scunthorpe United.
Absolutely not. Not like Burnley either. So I made this like, it was obsidian red and black kit, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing in the world. Like, honestly, when I put it through to working with this, company abroad, and we was putting it through manufacturing with them, and they were talking back to me and sizes and length of this and and I got thinking I've never fucking done it.
But you've never done it before. But now when you need to do it, you do that, and that's kind of the point.
And the best thing was when it arrived and he opened the box, and my first initial reaction, I was so buzzing. And then I looked at it and I thought, I'd change this and I'd change that, and I wish that wasn't like this, and I wish not. But I know for a fact now if I was to do it again,
and that's all,
that whole process.
So that is all business is. Yeah. It's just experience, and it's about going through. Because I know, like, a few people keep asking me questions like, when they're starting out. It's like, look, don't sweat. You will get all this. You can't be expected to know all about the different finances, how to market, how to sell, how to make a product. You can't know all that straight away. And even now, I'm working on some new sort of side projects where, so trying to do things that I haven't done before because I don't know what I'm doing. So trying to enter into different areas because, like, say for example, hopefully in the not too distant future, we're going to open up like an office space. I've never fucking done anything with property before, so it's fucking new to me, like a co-working space with private offices. I don't know what I'm fucking doing, but guess what? I'm learning, and I'm enjoying learning, and that's the bit I really enjoy about business. It's the learning. That for me, from knowing that you sold your business and you did really well with it and stuff, and hearing somebody say that from that perspective, who's done well in business, I still don't know what I'm doing. Mate, I kid you not. If you need an example of someone who did not know what they're doing, I literally am it. That's Jordan, founder of Stigma. It's so interesting listening to Jordan's account of his journey and how mental health has contributed both to the source of some frustrations, obviously, but also as a platform to help others. And maybe other founders can also appreciate some of those familiar pain points too. The imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, they're all classic symptoms of starting up on your own because, well, you feel as if you are on your own. But if you're thinking about starting your business, maybe you've just started out or you're busy trying to grow your business, remember you're never really alone. As startup founders, we're all often experiencing the same problems and the same issues, and that's where connecting with people in a similar boat to you can make all the difference. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and you can also find out more about how we're helping businesses get started and connecting founders with our own startup community without the BS over at GoFounder.com. A special thanks to Jordan Smith and, of course, to you for listening to Business Knobs from GoFounder.